Good morning. As you can see from the attire, it is freezing, -6 to be exact, and we have a full lake freeze over behind me here. As you can see from the thumbnail, we have otters. It's probably going to be one of the most controversial videos we put out for some time, I imagine. We'll try and have a quick discussion about the otter situation, our personal views on it, what we're doing about it, and then we'll plead with you guys in the comment section to please be nice. There's going to be different opinions down there. Let's try and keep any discussion we have civil, and yeah, let's respect each other's opinions, and we're not always going to agree on things. So, let's go with the pro otter start, really. So obviously it's a native species to the UK, a keystone species within the ecosystem, you know, top predator. It's a sign of good water quality, and they play a pivotal role in managing fish populations within the ecosystem. And then on the other side of that debate, there's going to be fishery managers, pond owners, koi pond owners, who have invested a lot of money, and it is their business and their livelihood in operating stillwater fisheries, where the otters are coming in and completely decimating their fisheries. So, you know, you've got people's businesses and decades of their time poured into venues, and for a species to be reintroduced and that comes and wipes them out, obviously, you know, that we need to address that too in some way. Now, most fisheries are putting otter fences around them, excluding the otters from the fishery and moving them on. Same with garden koi ponds. They're trying their best to kind of fence them out as best they can. It's a little bit more difficult in the garden, you know. These people have spent a lot of money in making a beautiful koi pond in their garden, and sticking a big fence around it is not ideal for most people. Thanks very much for watching, and all the usual stuff. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell. Only 3% of our regular viewers are subscribed, which thank you very much if you're part of that 3%, but it makes a massive difference. It helps the channel out, helps us get our messages across. So please, when you're doing this, just grab that mouse button, go up on your phone, click that subscribe, hit it. We're monetized now, which is amazing, and any money that we generate from YouTube, we're just going to pump straight back into biodiversity projects. So I think over the last 2 months we've made 100 and 150 pounds, something like that. So yeah, that'll come out of YouTube and be spent on trees and plants and biodiversity projects as a whole that we have. So thank you very much for the subscribers. That's you guys which are doing that, you know, by subscribing. The advertisers are paying us for your subscriptions, and that money will be spent not on cars or clothes or wherever else anyone spends the YouTube money on these days. But yeah, we'll pump all that as a promise into our biodiversity projects. So please, if you're watching this, hit that bell, generate some more income. Let's spend it in projects like these. All right, we'll carry on with the video. So that brings us to where we're at with ours. Obviously, we're a biodiversity project. You know, we want to attract as much wildlife as we can to the lake and the program, and we want to cater for as many species as possible. I think we've had some discussions backwards and forwards with people over the last few weeks about various different species. Great crested newt is one of them. You know, it's a protected species, it's fairly rare in the UK, and you know, do we centre everything around the great crested newt? And our opinion on that is it is no, really. We don't want to focus this habitat project on one single species. We want to try and incorporate as many as we can into the mix. We are 2 and a bit years into the lake. We've had some major problems with drought and weather and getting things established. So that's kind of put us about a year behind where we want to be at the moment. We've had the otter on here last year. Regarding fish stocks, it was so low stocks last year. We only had the 20 fish in and a very small population of roach, which naturally came here via egg transfer via birds. The otters came in, they spent about a week here. They chased the fish about. The fish are pretty young at this point. They're only 3-year-old fish. They chase the fish about. It's a very deep lake, lots of weed in it and very low stocked. So after about a week, the otters left and they went to the water next door actually. There's a small pool about 100 meters away, highly stocked, loads of fish in it, and they went into that pool and they ate the fish into there. This year we had our first breeding pair of moorhens. They lived on the island. We're very happy to have them. It was our first kind of resident pair of birds. They bred, they had a nice family. I think they had 12 chicks. I think that was whittled down to about 6 by the start of winter. Unfortunately, over the last few weeks, the otter has killed those family of moorhens, and they've got a couple of coots as well which had showed up. The moorhens and the coots were living on the island behind me, and it was pretty easy pickings really for the otter. It came in, took the birds, made a bit of a mess, and yeah, it was gone. So I think some of the issues that we're running into on the lake, like I said, we are behind of where we want to be vegetation wise. Usually on a pretty mature lake, you'd have big reed beds, you have trees around the outside, and when the otters come on the lake, the bird life can get up into the trees and get away from the otters into the trees and into the reed beds and hide away from them really. And right now we don't have that on our lake. We're not there yet. It's still young. We're about a year behind things, so there was no hiding place for the bird life to go, and as a consequence of that, we've lost it. As for the fish, we still haven't any immortalities from the fish yet. Again, still really low stock in here, so I'm pretty happy about that. But a few of the ponds in the direct area have been emptied over the last couple of weeks. There's obviously quite a large group of otters, probably a couple of families in the area, and they are emptying ponds left, right and centre all the way around us. So we have come to the decision to temporarily exclude the otters by putting an electric 3-strand fence around the lake until we can get this place more established, till we can get the tree cover up, the reed beds established, and at least give the other bits of wildlife a chance of escape. Make the ground a little bit fairer rather than a pretty bare open pond. So posts are in. Just going to start on getting the insulators in right here. It's three per post, and they're about 10 centimeters spacing. So I'm just going post to post to post right now and sticking 3 in. Bing bang bosh. It's a bit of a job. Hands and knees all around the pond. But yeah, I'll get these in, and then after that it'll be time to start putting the wire in. one by one, big old line of them. Looks like it's gonna be a wet day. Just another 130 posts to go. I'll just give you a quick update. We've got all the posts in, all ringed, and I've brushed the grass down to level, so it shouldn't short out the wire. And then tomorrow we'll start stretching the wire around. I'll just give you a quick look now. As you can see, that goes all the way around the lake. Cut the grass down. Finish the last few posts off and get inside and have a cup of tea. It's freezing. Hopefully this is the last day I'm doing the otter fence. It's frozen this morning. It was -5 last night, so we've got half the lake covered in ice. It's supposed to be -5 again tonight, so probably a good day to finish this fencing today. So that's a battery pack connected. You know, I got a really good earth in right there. It actually comes, which connects a little connector right here, which connects to that pole right there via a nut and to the battery, but I whacked that earth in so deep and hard that it broke the nut, so temporarily it's just connected by the top there, but I'll probably change that. And yeah, got that from Mole Valley, all connected up. I've just tested it out. It's got a bit of a whack to it, so that should do the business. I think we get about 15 weeks, it said, out of that battery before I need a recharge. So yeah, that should do us really. Okay, all finished. Fence is up. It's kind of nice knowing that we're secure now and have some protection. Hopefully the remaining bird life on the pond will stick around now. We've still got the ducks flying in every now and again, but their numbers have really dwindled over the last week, so I think everything knows what's up. Mr. Otter's about, danger's about, no one wants to be here. So electric fence up, bit more secure. It brings me to, like, you know, there's obviously an imbalance. They shouldn't be in this number cruising around inland waters at this time of year. Obviously, once the river's in floods, they pull out from the river and start to hunt in stillwater ponds, and then when the river comes back out of flood, they'll be back into the river. But, you know, the more and more we go along in this area and speaking to other freshwater managers in the area, they're coming out the rivers earlier, pretty much at the start of winter, and they're spending their whole time hunting around stillwater ponds in the area. You know, fish stocks in the rivers are notoriously low around here from previous years. You've got water companies all over the news dumping sewage and pollutants into the rivers willy-nilly, getting fines from the government, paying them, carrying on really. So we need to figure out a way that works for everything. We need to figure out a method which works for freshwater managers, for fishery owners, for people with garden ponds, and we need to find a balance for the otter itself. We need to establish that back into an ecosystem, but in a way that it's in a balanced ecosystem, that their numbers are not out of control. How that happens, I have no idea. Do we bring management back in to control numbers? I think that'll be a pretty controversial topic in the UK. Do we need more survey data to find out even if they are too overpopulated in certain areas, and do we start moving them around? Again, that is going to be really controversial. Is there a requirement to put more stillwater wetlands next to the river systems, which are specifically designed that otters can come out of the rivers and hunt on these wetlands adjacent to the river system? You know, that's creating more habitats. That could be a great idea, but who knows? Where's the land come from that? Who's funding it? There's all kinds of issues with it, really, and yeah. That's my initial thoughts, off the cuff, not pre-planned. But that's where we're at. That's the decision we've made. We're putting the fence around it. We're excluding them for the time being. There's multiple waters all around us which are not fenced. And they're not really angling clubs either, they're just private unfenced stocked waters, so we'll move them on to those mature waters and we'll carry on working really hard to establish this to a point that potentially you could let them in and be part of the ecosystem. So alongside the fencing, one of the other jobs that we've got to do is just carry on planting. We've got this little woodland behind us here. We're just going to extend that back with some additional broadleaf trees. We've got some elm in there, which is really nice. And at the back of it too, we're going to start, this year we're going to start getting the conifer component around the lake. I know a lot of people might be pretty against conifer as well. It's another one of these divisive subjects, which this episode seems to be full of. But we've got Scots pine going in. It's our native pine. So we'll spatter that around. There's going to be a little grove of it here at the back, and then we're going to sprinkle them around the lake. So yeah, it'll just add that evergreen touch to the lake, the appearance, and yeah, super important for wildlife too. There's loads of species that are reliant on the nuts, and bees are even reliant on the sap. But less chatting, more planting. That's one little lot done. I'll go back round and protect it with the tubes and the stakes. It's a mix of elm, oak, cherry. I think there's some birch in there as well. So yeah, it gives us a nice little extension right there. Now I'll come back in the next few weeks when we've got the conifers here and start blowing the conifers further back. Alright, on to the next section. Well, we've had a few comments about why we're using tubes on the site. I think we mentioned in previous videos that not only we got issues with otters coming in and taking all the birds and whatnot, but we also have major issues with the deer. That's another population that is completely out of whack and not in balance, and they are proving terrible for us. I'll show you some of the plants around the lake right now, but they come in. There's maybe 30-40 of them every morning down here, and they are mowing my aquatic marginals every single day. And also I'll show you the difference in the trees. Every time a tree pops out of one of these tubes, it nibbles it. I am blown away by the fact that this spindle hasn't been munched yet, but there's one which is one of the first trees we ever planted on here, a spindle again, further down the bank, and I'll show you that it's not protected. So here is the unprotected spindle. We've had this up to about 5 feet in height, and then it gets browsed all the way down to this level. Again, it'll blast up in summer, and then in winter it'll get browsed back down to this level. So yeah, so it just shows you how difficult it is to get these plants away around the lake, and why that protection with the tree tubes are vital. At least get them up and out the tubes, and try and get them away from the deer. Again, it's another management issue, really. Deer are a massive issue on all our projects up and down the country, from the forestry projects to creating woodlands. You know, if they're not fenced out or your trees aren't protected, you're just not growing woodlands. And there is the argument there that let nature take its course and plant trees, let them get browsed, and eventually you would eventually get a woodland. But that's not the business we're in. We're in the business of really trying to help nature out and speed it back up. There's been so much environmental degradation over the centuries here that, you know, we're trying to speed that re-naturalisation up by planting forests, by protecting them. Unfortunately, we don't eat deer meat anymore. You know, we used to eat deer, and now we don't as a population. So their population numbers have exploded. Unless we manage our environmental projects, then, you know, our woodland creation, which is unmanaged and just let the deer to browse, it's going to take 60, 70, 80 years to get up and away. Or you can exclude the deer and get that thing away in 10, 15 years, and she'll be deer proof, and you can take the fences down and let them back in. So it's all about management. It's controversial with the otter, but it's the same with the deer. You know, we're managing these natural ecosystems. We're just not letting them go willy-nilly, because if you do that, it takes a very long time to get something in balance. So yeah, I'll show you a few more of the plants around the pond to give you examples. So yeah, that's the Carex riparia behind me there. This was planted all up this bank, you know, maybe 1,000 of them. And then the deer just come in every day and nibble it back. This is actually the best it's been in weeks right here. These are the only surviving plants from the initial plantation. I'll show you a close-up. You can see the little nibbles on the top of it. They let it get up to about this height, and then they come in and mow it right down to the waterline, really. And slowly they've managed to eat everything, and these are the only remaining plants we have of it. So yeah, it's quite frustrating trying to get all this stuff away, and then nature comes along and either sends you 70 days without rain, or a herd of deer come and wipe out all your plants. But that's the game. We'll keep battling along, keep planting. We need to come up with a management strategy for the deer, I think, because we can't just keep on getting wiped out. It's not economical. And again, like I said before, you know, we can just let things happen, but you're not going to get an ideal system like that. You can see that the juncus comes in, and it comes in, it's quite resilient, it comes everywhere. It's actually not the greatest aquatic marginal. It provides 0 to non-bank stability, and it provides nice little hiding spots. We want a few patches of it around, but we want different species. We want the irises and sedges and carex and bulrush, and we want those species to come in and really create really solid habitats. So yeah, still thinking about what we're going to do about the deer, whether or not we fence that out too, until we can get established. I won't mind, but the deer have 7 acres of meadow that they could go in and browse, but at the moment they're loving all my aquatic plants. Well, that's a problem for another day.
For more information about our projects and to get involved, head over to www.creatingtomorrowsforest.co.uk.
If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel.